Recently, Ben Carson visited Liberty University in Virginia, and he took a couple swipes at our favorite candidate, Bernie Sanders. Now, which specific policy did he decide was a bad idea and should be targeted in his speech? We'll take a look and you'll find out.
Because if the people are not well informed, all it takes is unscrupulous politicians and news media, and off the people go in a completely wrong direction, listening to all kinds of propaganda and inculcating that into their method of thinking. And then it becomes real easy for them to swallow things. If they don't really understand the financial situation of the country and somebody comes along and says, free college for everybody, they'll say, oh, what a wonderful person. And they have no idea that all you're talking about is hastening the destruction of the nation.
Look at the clowns clapping at that. I mean, it's he's at Liberty University. I don't know how much the tuition there is. Maybe someone can look it up and let me know. But I'm guaranteeing you that it's not free.
You just
right?
tithe.
I guarantee you that there are some students there that are probably dealing with some student loan debt because they got their education at Liberty University or any other university in this country because they're so insanely priced at this point that it's impossible to pay out of pocket and not go into debt to get an education here. Okay, and they're clapping like clowns, right? Like, yeah, free college, fuck that, fuck free college, yeah. I mean, it's incredible how much these people support those who go against their own self-interest. Amazing.
Yeah, he says nothing is really free when you think about it. Well, first of all, from his point of view, apparently if you're relatively high profile, you could run for president. He doesn't have to pay shit. What is he paying for this opportunity to promote his book, possibly become the leader of the free world? He doesn't have to pay anything. Why isn't he going into debt for the rest of his life for this shit?
So people do like to criticize Bernie Sanders for his education policy. He does want to make education free because there are many countries in Europe, for instance, that have made it either free or close to free.
Well, he wants to make it tuition free, which is different than totally free.
Yeah, of course. So there are fees and things like that would still be in place. But the real problem is the tuition is through the roof and people can't afford it. And the problem with that is education is supposed to be the great equalizer. It's supposed to give people equal opportunities to do exactly what Republicans want, pull themselves up by the bootstraps. And oftentimes during these GOP debates, they'll give you these anecdotes from their childhood when they were, raised in like the 1940s and tuition cost 25 cents. And they're like, well, I was working and then I paid for my education. I didn't have any problems. Yeah, homeboy, that was a different time. Okay, think about how much college tuition has increased in the last decade alone. No one can pay for that out of pocket. No one can work and go to school and expect to pay for everything out of pocket.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he, in at least Fantasyland, was offered a free ride to West Point. That was going to be free. Now, he turned it down, perhaps because he knew that would have crippled him emotionally and spiritually in the future. And look, it's not free college. It's not even free tuition to all college. It's Bernie Sanders wants to make public colleges for 4 years tuition free, which is a much more limited version of that total thing. Hillary Clinton has a different plan. And the crazy thing, of course, and we've thrown this fact around before, is that the cost that we would have to do this program would be something like $60 to $63 billion a year, which sounds like a lot of money. I mean, as I pointed out to Jimmy, and he's been talking about this recently, we just authorized an additional $30 billion for bombing specifically in Syria and Afghanistan over the next year.
Well, that's okay.
Nobody even thinks about that. That's free, which again counters what Ben Carson says. We can just spend it. If you want to bomb it, just spend it. It doesn't matter. Right now, the federal government actually spends more than the $60 to $63 billion subsidizing and all of that stuff, that same system. I'm being completely upfront. I have no clue how that actually works, but it is true. It would actually be slightly cheaper to just offer the 4-year tuition free for 4 years. And if it's so bad to get people in the habit of just expecting that education is going to be free, then fucking get rid of the public high schools and get rid of the public elementary schools and get rid of... why do we have any of that then?
it's important to have it because, again, you look.
Oh, no, I think we should have it.
You agree with me. But Republicans want to get away or get rid of those things for one specific reason. They don't want equal opportunity.
And they
right?
don't use them.
They don't, exactly. They don't use them, okay? It's the wealthier party. They take advantage of the private system, which, by the way, no one's advocating for getting rid of the private education system. It would still stand, so people would have a choice, right?
Yeah.
But the reason why public education is so important and public universities are so important is because they give those from a lower socioeconomic status an opportunity to get educated and to be productive, successful members of society.
Yeah.
But Republicans hate that.
Yeah.
They don't want that kind of equality. They're the type of people who will take advantage of these systems, and as soon as they're wealthy and as soon as they're successful, they want to shut that door right behind them.
That's true.
Which is the most unpatriotic thing you can do. Look, when I think about where my money goes, I have no problem paying taxes, right? I would love for my tax money to go toward education. I would love for my tax money to go toward younger generations who can take advantage of the same opportunities that I had to become successful in life.
Yeah.
That's patriotic, okay? I don't want my money to go toward 50 ground troops in Syria who aren't going to change anything about the situation in the Middle East whatsoever. I don't want my money to go toward that.
Exactly.
I don't want my money to go toward weapons manufacturers who are constantly being funneled all this cash to come up with new military technology that we don't need.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want my money to go toward that, but it doesn't matter what I want. Republicans are bought off by these weapons manufacturers. They're bought off by corporations. They would much rather subsidize these corporations and give them these huge tax cuts instead of help those that they're supposed to represent.
Yeah.
That's what this government's all about.